Hi guys, it's the old man calling. I just wanted to complete a section you might call the means. We've been calling the means, where I've shown you a way to practice aware consciousness, and I've broken it down into about half a dozen important points that are simple, straightforward, to do with shifting your awareness into a sensational world and then focusing in right here, right now, on a sense, whatever sense moment consciousness brings your attention to, and then keeping your attention fully as you can on that experience of being in a universe of being, including noticing that in that realm of presence, that experiential realm of being, you are not there as a separate self. So I've spoken about that, those means. We've been through that many times, and I'm hoping that you're now taking that practice on board and you're practicing that shift of awareness in every quiet moment. Before we leave the means, I wanted to say something that I think has been a wonderful discovery for me, and also that I'd like to share with you. And that is that this is not about being the perfect meditator or mindful person. What I wanted to say and what I've discovered in my own practice is that the best I can do, if I'm genuinely intending to do the best I can during that half an hour daily meditative awareness practice session, then that will be good enough. My experience is that you will start to distinguish between the realm of presence, the experience of being right here, right now, in a universe of being, and including disappearing into that oneness, disappearing when you're a being, when you're a flow of sense moments and nothing more, when you're not there as a separate self, as you're not in that realm of presence. In aware consciousness, you're not there as a separate self. What's there, when you let consciousness bring your attention to it, is a flow of sense moments. There's an entirely different way of engaging with life, and in this way of engaging with life, aware consciousness, you are not there as a separate person, as a separate self. You are in your everyday life. Of course, that's the way we speak, it's you and me, and the world's out there. But in this realm of presence, where you're focused on the experience of being right here, right now, one sense moment after another, after another, after another, you're not here as a separate self. Okay, so all of that will kick in and make a huge difference in your life if you do the best you can to adopt this as a daily practice in every quiet moment and reinforce it, strengthen it, give it resilience and clarity by doing a half an hour meditative awareness routine session. So every day. So that's, if you do that for, of course I can't be absolute about times because we're all different, but I think that part of it, that's kind of part one. That if you do that for a year or maybe 18 months, that's plenty of time for you to shift in that half an hour, especially within that half an hour meditative awareness session that you're doing every day, into a place where the experience of being in a universe of being and all that you notice about the nature of presence, the wonderful, extraordinary nature of presence will reveal itself to you. And the sort of difference between our ordinary way of looking at life, where we're thinking and talking and interacting and engaging with life conceptually, and that experiential engagement with life, aware consciousness, will show up. So that will become a very significant part of your life, and you will develop an open mind if you practice letting go of all those things that hurtful things that you were dwelling on, and if you practiced letting go of that stuff in the way that I showed you, you will have an open mind. Your mind will become more open, and your heart will become warmer. So that all of that will happen. You don't have to be the perfect meditator. This is an approach to aware consciousness for people like you and me, who may not have a background in meditation or mindfulness, and it's simple and straightforward and accessible. So just do the best you can, that'll be good enough. What I wanted to talk about now was what you might call the USP, the unique selling points. Not that I'm selling or anything, but you know what I mean. The particular things about this approach to aware consciousness that distinguishes it from other approaches. Because the way that you choose to practice does make a difference in how that aware consciousness manifests in your life. So I wanted to just talk about what this approach to aware consciousness, this practice of aware consciousness, the direction that it will shift you in. Because let's go right back to the beginning of this workshop. When can you remember I spoke to you about my deep sadness about the worst of human behavior, the dark side of human behavior, and the effect that's had and is still having on everything, really, from a personal level through a social level to world systems and planetary systems. And on every level, the worst of human behavior is having a terrible effect on the environment, the lives we live and the environment we live in. So that's very important to me. It's written into this, a shift in where we come from is written into this approach to aware consciousness that amounts to a shift from an anthropocentric view of life, a human-centered view of life, where our early 21st century mainstream view of life, where we engage with life on the basis of talking, thinking, interacting in all sorts of ways on the basis of words and ideas and concepts. So from a conceptually based, that's a human thing, words, ideas, concepts, looking at life like that, interpreting life rather than experiencing it, that's a human thing. And, it's a very dominant 21st century human thing, So what the starting point, literally, when I take you into these awareness exercises, the first thing is to notice that you and I are engaging with life conceptually. What I'd like to point out to you now is that that's an a human-centered way of engaging with life. Okay? And what this practice brings about is a shift from that, letting go of a lot of that stuff and focusing instead of that on that conceptual engagement with life to a ego-centered engagement with life, an experiential engagement with life, where the possibility of living harmoniously with all and everything, the whole of life, right here, right now, is not a thing for us guys practicing aware consciousness that's only something to aim for in the future. It's our experience right now. So that's built into this approach to aware consciousness. That shift from an anthropocentric, a human-centric, a me-centered, where I'm at the center of the universe, as I am in my everyday life, I'm doing this, you're doing this, where we have this conventional view of life, which is the way that we communicate. This is the way we live in the early 21st century. I'm over here, you're over there, the world's out there. We have a conventional, conceptually based engagement with life, and this practice is the best way I know to shift you away from that and into an ecocentric and experiential and all-inclusive living harmoniously right here, right now, in the experience of being in a universe where everything is being. Oneness, that is, everything's being. So if you do this practice, that shift will occur. And it doesn't really merit a separate mention, but it's so ingrained in our way of life, in everything that we talk about and think about, in the whole way that we look at life on every level, that we're a separate being, that we're a separate self. It's just, this is the way that us early 21st century people talk and think, and it's the conventional way that's got ingrained in our habitual way of looking at life, that I'm a separate self. I'm over here, you're over there, the world's out there. That's revealed in this, especially in the experience, the easily noticed experience that in aware consciousness, when you're tuned into a flow of sense moments, you disappear as a separate self. Let's just remind ourselves of that right now. Okay, so that's the second point. Really, it's the same point, but because we're so obsessed with the idea that I'm me, with my identity, shifting that identity, and shifts really something fundamental in the way that we engage with life. So that, for instance, it plants the seeds of, instead of our ultimate aim in life to be, it is being the best person the best me I can possibly be, which is, kind of that I would say that epitomizes early 21st century thinking and approach to life. The ultimate is to be the best me that I can possibly be. This practice will shift you from that to the practice of aware consciousness, which is being focused not on me, but being focused first and foremost on the experience of being right here, right now, putting aside a lot of that concern that's to do with me, putting aside all of that personal stuff, not dwelling on that, and instead creating and leaving an open mind and a warm heart for the love, the caring, and the compassion to show up. That represents a huge shift in terms of, if you think we were talking about the worst of human behavior, it gives you a real clear insight into which human behaviors in over here and over there are damaging, harmful, hurtful, causing upset, struggle, suffering, causing damage to, planetary systems and all the rest of it. And it gives you a real insight into that, and it's a way of letting go of your own part in that, and letting go of all that divisive human way of thinking and acting, and shifting in a more open mind, with a warmer heart, to a way of living which is about sharing the love, caring, and compassion, which nobody could say is anything to do with the worst of human behaviour. Just the opposite. That's the force for good in the world. You're identifying with not you as a separate self, but with allowing that force for good in the world to come forth. So that's a second point. The third particular point about this approach that I've noticed that I think is wonderful, really wonderful, and incredibly liberating, is that it changes your relationship to the physical world. Because you're practicing with open eyes and you're focusing, you're allowing consciousness to bring your attention to sense moments, the sensational world. So you're never not engaging with our everyday life. We're engaging. This practice of aware consciousness is based right in our everyday lives. It's an all-day, everyday practice. It's about engaging with everyday life in a different way with aware consciousness. Okay, and what I found is that actually results in, has led me, and I'm convinced that it will lead you to a complete new set of values, which might not be a question of ditching your old values, and some of those are wonderful values, but these are new values that arise when you have an established practice of aware consciousness. For instance, valuing stillness, quiet, peace, and the untroubled realm of being right here, right now. And what that means is that in every quiet moment, I can look around me at this plant and the table and chairs, this chair, and what I will see when I'm in a quiet moment is being, a universe of being. What I see, it changed my relationship to the physical world. What I physically see, because I'm used to looking at things with relaxed eyes, and I've trained my awareness to be focused in a world of being. So what I see is not a set of ordinary chairs. I can see those things, but I can distinguish between my everyday, ordinary way of looking at things, where I see a set of tables and chairs. They're tables and chairs. That could tell you about, what sort of tables and chairs they are, and blah, 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 all sorts of things. But in a quiet moment, in 1,000 quiet moments, what I see when I look at those tables and chairs is being, is a universe of being. So, these particular sense moments, I'm seeing things that look like tables and chairs. They are tables and chairs. It's not they're not tables and chairs, but what the aspect of those tables and chairs that seem most real to me is their being. This is a universe of being. And that's a physical thing. My senses are heightened in that way and tuned in that particular way, so that I'm living not only in the ordinary world of tables and chairs and furniture and floor tiles and so on, but in an extraordinary and amazing and always wonder-filled world of universe of being, in a universe of being which I disappear as a separate self. And that's a remarkable and extraordinary and a wonderful experience. So that's a particular expected result, if you like. That happens. That will probably happen to you if you adopt this practice, because you're practicing with all your senses tuned into the sound, the space in front of your eyes, valuing the amazing, living experience of sight, the space in front of your eyes, the sound of the world right now, that amazing mosaic of sound that never repeats, that's always right here, right now, that extraordinary experience of hearing the world right here, right now, taste the world right here, right now, and that completely different engagement with time and space that for me is amazingly manifests when I'm in the world of touch sense moments, where my attention now shifts from one moment of touch here, there, here, there, here, there, then the sound of the world there, the look of the world there, seeing of the world, the taste of, that experiential engagement with life is an entirely different engagement with a different sort of space, relative space and time, now, which, for instance, which has no, is not limited in any way, and is entirely different to our conventional view of me being a body sitting in this chair. That's a conventional view. And I can easily shift into that. I can look at my image on the screen and shift into that. But my experience is quite a different spatial and experience of time and space. It's right now, and space from a moment here, there, here. Aware consciousness. Consciousness brings our attention to one sense moment after another. That's a different engagement with life. It's a different sort of universe. It's not that conventional, conceptually based, conventional view of life that we can easily go back into. I'm talking, you're listening, you're understanding, I'm using language. That's our everyday human interaction. So this is giving you another dimension, another realm, another way of engaging with life. It doesn't destroy what it does, your everyday engagement with life. What it does is it informs it by bringing additional values in, so that instead of our values being about being the best me I can possibly be, active, engaged, ambitious, directing my own life, which if you multiply that by, say, 8 billion people on the planet, obviously, is causing huge amounts of stress and strain on the finite resources of the world. What this does, this practice, is it shows you and it engages you with an engagement with life that doesn't cost anything, where you don't need any equipment, and where it's already full of wonder every moment. So that's the beginnings, the seeds, the beginning of the end for a materialistic, consumer way of life. It's the beginning of the end of ordinary people like you and me cherry picking the best bits of life and searching after, going in search of experiences or money or sex or relationships or celebrity or fame or possessions or status or so it's the beginning of the end of that, and it's a practical shift of awareness that marks the beginning of the end of all of that, marks the beginning of the end of all that questing to make life different from what it is. This is the beginning of, and now we come on to part 2. So those are the particular, I would say, USPs of this approach. And in terms of establishing that practice, although obviously I can't put hard and fast figures on it, times on it, time limits on it, I would say that it's realistic to expect that you can establish a strong, resilient, and clear practice in the way that I've shown you there within a year or 18 months. That's the first part. Now, the second part, which is bringing that aware consciousness out into the world in a way that makes a difference in your life and as your families, communities, and potentially in society and in the world. And that depends. That's in this everyday world on you being willing to bring those values that you discover in this practice of aware consciousness and the wonder of doing this thing. So to bring that wonder, to bring that extraordinary, that way of engaging with life, where life is always extraordinary, where you're always committed to being in the present moment, and you're loving the experience of being right here, right now, in a universe of being. The second part of this, practice of aware consciousness, depends on you being willing to bring changes and to keep bringing changes into your everyday life, so that your everyday life, where you might have a job that you recognise is really not something from your heart. It's not something, for instance, or a relationship or circumstances, or you might have money problems or health problems and so on. So, these are our everyday lives. We do face challenges, and those challenges, those changes that we want to make in our everyday, that they take time and they take effort and they take a willingness to change. So the second part of this approach to practicing aware consciousness is where it becomes really a lifelong practice. And that lifelong practice is allowing the experience of being right here, right now, and what you discover about the nature of presence and valuing stillness, quiet, peace, and living in an untroubled, simple way, simple living, where simple living, not only means the way that you choose to live in the world in terms of the resources you use, the thing, and so on and so forth, good ecological practice, but also having a much simpler, more open, less cluttered, less unsatisfied, less questing, less ambitious, less human-centered way of thinking and acting. So that stuff takes time. It's something you never finish, really. None of us are going to turn into perfect human beings. That's not what this is about. So the second part is that when you've taken this practice on board, then to turn it into a lifelong practice which will be determined by the extent to which you're willing to keep changing your life, keep changing the way that you live, so that it aligns, so that you align the way that you live more and more in your everyday life with these values and this experiential engagement with life, valuing this experiential engagement with life right here, right now. Okay, so that's something about the specific USPs of this particular approach to aware consciousness. Above all, the point is practice it. Practice aware consciousness. This is not about listening to me talk about nice things. This is about, I've shown you a way to practice aware consciousness now. The next stage is to say, yes, I am now practicing aware consciousness. I'm going to practice that all day, every day, as best I can in the way that I've just learned. And I'm going to do this half an hour a day meditative awareness session, so that it gets to be a real clear, strong and resilient practice that I can bring to the world. Remember, warm heart, love, caring, compassion. Okay, that's it, guys. Talk to you later. Don't forget to subscribe to the Old Man Calling channel on YouTube, and to like this video and to share it and to comment on it and to let me know how things are going. Stay in touch. Talk to you later. Bye.